All right, guys. So I submitted that pull request, and now it's been a couple of days, and the pull request has been reviewed and merged. So what I wanted to do is go through with you, what happens when the maintainer reviews your PR, and so let's see what happened in this case. So Caleb, who's the maintainer, made some refactors and wanted me to take a look. I mean, this is really nice of him. He doesn't have to do this. He could have just refactored it, moved on, and never even told me that he changed anything. But Caleb's a great guy and great open source maintainer. So let's see, let's open this up and take a look. So on the Livewire components finder, he added a return, which you can see why he does that, because then in the file that we were working on, he added some comments, which helps really understand what's going on here. Like I said, when I was in that code, I didn't really know what it was doing. I could die and dump variables and kind of figure it out. The maintainer knows much better. So, and he actually defined it here, maybe for my benefit or maybe for his own or anyone else who comes and looks at this file so they can understand what's going on. So these 6 lines of codes, this is what I added. And he removed it because he wanted it to, I should have known this when I submitted it. He's using this syntax instead of using the conditional statements. So I probably could have refactored my code to look more like what he was doing. And then he's taking what is built from the finder, and that's why this is important. And then he's chaining the find method on it. So this code does the exact same thing as this one here. So his refactor certainly looks a lot nicer. It's fewer lines of code. It's actually 5 lines with 2 comment lines versus 6 lines here. And then he removed this check. Now this is actually pretty interesting because what we were testing in the UI and what we tested with our unit tests were actually 2 different use cases. And so if we go to, here's my original PR. So there's the code that he deleted. And then here is, I added this in the activate function. And if we go back here, you can see he removed that entirely. And so if we actually look at the only line of my PR that he actually kept, so I removed this exception, so that was kept. And then, changing this from a generic exception to a component not found. And then renaming the test and deleting this section. So about half of my PR is ultimately living in the code base. And some people might look at that and say, oh, well, man, I got a 50%. I got an F on that PR. But again, that's not the case at all. This was helpful. This solved an issue, and it helped the maintainer to update his code base in the way that he wants it to, but it still, helped him get there. And so was my PR accepted without any edits? No. Was that my goal? No. My goal was to be helpful, and I did accomplish that, which is, I feel great about it. So anyways, going back to, this is the test that we did in the unit test of components that are created are automatically added to the manifest. And we weren't actually testing that when we were looking at the UI. We were testing the namespace changes, which was a different but very related open issue in the GitHub issues. And so this is actually probably a somewhat common use case of there are some people who don't like to use their console, the console to generate their files. They like to create them manually. And so this is a pretty common use case, and we solved for it, which is great. The problem that we were solving in our testing, in our UI, was actually right here. And if you look at what Caleb did, is he took that out entirely. And so the problem that this was solving again is if you change the namespace of where your components live, then without this, it's not going to find your components. And so again, I talked in the very beginning of this video series about how it's really important to communicate with the maintainer. Make sure that you're not doing a bunch of work that they don't want or need. And so if we go back to the original issue here, I responded, I made sure that he understood that what he removed was going to result in this specific use case still failing. And Caleb actually reached out to me directly and said, hey, I don't quite understand what you were saying there. And he and I talked. And eventually I helped him understand what the use case was. And once he got it, he decided, because it's his code base, that is such an uncommon scenario that I don't want to, code anything that resolves it automatically. Because the options to code it automatically would be to do something like check the namespace in the manifest file against the namespace in your config file and do that check on every time a component's loaded. And it's such an edge case, it doesn't make sense. And I definitely agree with Caleb on that. And so what he did say when we talked was, this command fixes everything. And so why don't we just go into where the config file where you declare your namespace, and there's already a comment there, and let's just add a line in that file that tells the user, if you make a change here, run this command. So that is, I believe and agree with Caleb, is the most elegant solution to this problem that I defined here. So what I want to do is go make that PR to the config file. And I'm going to do this like we did in the docs. If you skip the docs section, there's actually a really easy way to make, one line changes and quick updates and submit those as PR. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm here in the master branch and I just want to go to config. And here's the Livewire. And so this is where we were changing this class namespace, moving components back and forth. And so I just want to click this edit button. Again, if you saw the docs videos, then you've already seen me do this. But so I'm going to add a period there and come down here and say, if you change this namespace, make sure to run. Oops. PHP Artisan Livewire Discover. Now let's put this on 2 lines just because it's too far out there, and let's add that 1 line there. So let's see. I like this there. Caleb might prefer that it, kind of wraps more, but I like to at least make sure the command itself is all on the same line. So this is basically what anyone would need to do if they're going to make a change here. So everything here is good. That's all I have to do to make this PR. And I'm just going to propose the file change of add comment to let user know to run Livewire Discover. So I've got a great pro tip. Commit summaries are fewer than 50 characters. So let's shorten this up. Changes. It's a few extra characters, but you know what? I think I'm good with it. And then there's actually an issue. So again, let's go and do some of the work that we don't want the maintainer to have to do. So let's go back and find the issues And I know there was the one that we were referring to, component not found exception. We don't have to do this, but it's helpful, so I like to. This is issue number 389. I'm going to mention it here. This addresses the issue number 389. There we go. And I'm going to propose the file change. It's going to give me a quick review. If you change this namespace, make sure to run Livewire Discover. And that's it. So I'm going to end up submitting one more PR. Again, this just created a patch branch in my forked repository, and making the pull request this way is super easy when you're just doing your one-line code bases. Or, sorry, one-line code changes. So let's just go ahead and take this and issue 389 related to, and let's reference my pull request, component not found. And so this is my pull request 429. Nope. And NA. See comments, and thanks for contributing. So there we go. Now I just create my pull request. And there we go. So I actually got to submit another pull request, which always makes me feel like I'm being helpful. And you can see, again, the key thing that I keep harping on over and over again is I just want to be helpful. I want to be helpful to Caleb, the maintainer. I want to be helpful to every person who uses Livewire. And I don't care how many lines of my code end up in the code base. I don't care how many PRs are, merged or not merged. I just want to be helpful, and I actually have a whole lot of fun doing it. So that was the review of that PR that we worked on together, and I hope you enjoyed that.